Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. My name is Lawrence Durbin. Super excited to have everyone here for the Denver Tableau User Group August 2022 event. Just real quick note, the ability to turn on your videos has been turned off, but you'll be able to unmute yourself throughout the whole thing. We will be turning back on the video portion here later on. So with that, just quick agenda, some welcome, housekeeping, and introduction. Then we have Eleonora Nazander, Senior Manager of Advanced Analytics over at Bain & Company, who's going to be giving a talk titled Fooled by Data, Psychology of Data-Driven Delusions, talking about the bias in data across the board, where it can be and how people can bring that into focus. So super excited for that. I had a little bit of a preview a few months ago and it's fantastic. And then of course at the end, Q&A and networking from that end. So welcome. This is the first Denver Tableau User Group event, I believe, since April. So super excited to be having this one in virtual. Hopefully we'll be seeing more in person coming up within the next month, 2 months, where we'll be able to meet in person, but super excited to get this restarted after a little bit of a hiatus over the spring and beginning part of the summer. So, but welcome. Real quick, just some housekeeping. Main thing is just please abide by the Tableau Community Code of Conduct across the board in any of these events. Be kind is the main thing from the Tableau Community Code of Conduct across the board. And then want to give an introduction. So I am one of the new leads for the Denver Tableau User Group. If for anyone who was around in April, there was a call for people to help take up and lead the Denver Tableau User Group. So I wanted to give an introduction. My name is Lawrence Durbin. I've been a Tableau user since 2018. I've been part of the data fam and connected there in that area since 2021. Currently, I'm a business intelligence analyst working for a financial services company focused on technical data. I moved to Colorado in 2007, so I've been here 15 years now. Currently, I am based out of Longmont in the Boulder County area. I've been here for the majority of the 15 years that I've lived here. Some other information, not only am I helping lead the Denver Tableau User Group, but I'm also co-lead of the brand new LGBTQ Data Pride Tug, which is a virtual tug that was launched back in June. As well, I am also a co-lead of the #DataFam community project, which focuses on monthly challenges around different areas of pop culture. Last month was Hugo and Nebula book winners, award winners, and this month is all things Star Trek. And so with that, it has been a few months, and since we've had this, as of right now, with the stepping down and stepping away of the previous leads, help wanted. Right now, it is just me kind of taking up the reins here as a co-lead for the Denver Tableau User Group. So if you scan this QR code, I'll also be noting the email there. Shoot me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. If you want to speak, if you want to help co-lead, plan an event somewhere throughout this, this is definitely an opportunity to be connected more with the data fam. It's been an absolutely amazing opportunity being part of the Tableau user groups, as well as, help out across the board and connect on what we love overall Tableau. And I'll be connecting and posting links and everything else in the chat throughout, but let me know if you want to reach out. Help would be great. And so with that, I think we'll get into the main meat of everything here. We have Eleonora Nazander, Senior Manager of Advanced Analytics at Bain & Company. Super excited for her talk. And so I am going to stop the share and take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully you're able to see my slides now.
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. Well, very excited to be here. The topic we're going to be talking today is something that I'm very passionate about. It's not about just data analysis, but how data analysis can go wrong. Yeah. We will be talking about psychological biases and statistical paradoxes that lead to incorrect conclusions made from data. Yeah. And this is perhaps not even obvious for everyone. It's not such a well-known topic that you can be data-driven and wrong. Yeah. We all know that we need data and we need to be analytical in order to make good decisions. However, it can happen that the best intentions, we might be data-driven and we still might be wrong. And it happens very frequently, as we will see. So I'm very excited that you decided to join and spend some time with us today. And I hope we all will have important takeaways from this session. I will be asking some questions to the audience. I like it to be a little interactive. And also I welcome any questions that you might have. So the things that I'm going to be talking about today come from my, how many, 5.5 years in consulting plus additional 4 years in analytics. I have been doing data analytics and visualization for my entire professional career, and I really love this field. When it comes to data visualization, I'm an avid Tableau user, as I guess many of you are, and I have had an honor to win Biz of the Day 3 times, and this is one of those works that I wanted to share with you. So this is data visualization about first 3 months of life of my daughter. Each circle is one breastfeeding. So size shows duration, and then you can also see timing. And as a result, we can see how she developed her circadian rhythm and how she started sleeping overnight. However, this is not talk about data visualization. It's more about data analysis. I felt there are already a lot of materials on data visualization. And of course, I'm also happy to talk about that. But this material that I will be sharing is not so widely available. So what's the agenda for today? We are going to be talking about 3 different stages of analytical process: collection data, data analysis, and then finally interpretation of results. And it turns out that there can be certain biases leading to wrong conclusions in each of these stages. As a first example, let's turn into history. Some of you have probably seen this example already. It's pretty famous. So imagine it's Second World War, and American defense forces are perplexed. They are losing a lot of planes. They have been shot and not coming back. And of course, the question they are asking is, hey, how can we reinforce the planes? Yeah, we would really love to make high percentage of them come back after the battle. Okay, so as good analysts, they collected the data they could by examining the planes that came back from war. And red dots here are showing bullet holes, yeah, where the planes were shot while flying abroad. Okay, what conclusion can we make here? The first conclusion that came into their minds was, oh, of course, we should reinforce places that are most likely to be shot, yeah? Places with most of the red dots. However, then statisticians intervened and told them that, no, actually, this is a very wrong conclusion. On the opposite, you should be reinforcing the areas without red dots. Yeah, those are the engines and other most important places in the plane. If planes are shot in those areas, then the plane cannot come back. Yeah. So why the conclusion was so contradictory? This is called survivorship bias. Yeah, we only have data on planes that survived, that came back, and we don't have data on all other planes. So we don't have complete data set. And as a result, we might come to wrong conclusions. Yeah, survivorship bias. Okay, you might tell me that, yeah, history is very interesting, but what does this have to do with my real work? Hey, I'm probably doing some analysis related to business purposes. Can you give me something more relevant for me? And yes, I can. Actually, you can see survivorship bias all around yourself once you start looking. It gets actually pretty funny. Let me give you a few examples. Have you seen any of books like this, Built to Last, or similar business Bibles? So what they do is they study companies who have been successful for a while. And then they draw conclusions about what are the common features of those companies. Yeah, those can be large companies that survive for a long time, or it can be successful startups. But nevertheless, both kinds of studies like these would be very prone to survivorship bias. Yeah, if you think about it, you only have part of the data set. Companies that survive, companies that did not survive are not present in the data. They might have exactly the same features. They might have done things that successful companies do. Yeah, they might be doing everything right, but they don't survive. However, we don't see that in data. So there is certain danger in studying based on case studies. Okay, a totally different example. The world of marketing, yeah? Oftentimes companies want to understand customer voice, and then they would run a study among their customers. And then I work for a consulting company. We often replicate those studies, yeah? As an independent party, we would also send out a survey to ask for customer voice. And what can you guess what happens? The results that we get, yeah, that customer voice scores that we get are usually lower than customers think that they have based on their own studies. Two things going on there, yeah. One is what can be called social desirability study, yeah. Especially, well, that usually happens if sales rep asks their customer in person, like, hey, what do you think about us? Or doctor asks a patient, like, hey, are you satisfied with the service? It's very hard to say, no, actually, I'm very dissatisfied. Yeah, that's social desirability bias. However, there is also a survivorship bias. Well, they only have access to their current customers. Even if they have emails of customers who churned, they are unlikely to answer those emails or answer the phone. And also, they don't have access to people who could become customers but decided not to. Yeah, perhaps they evaluated this company and chose to use competitor products instead. Yeah, they were not satisfied with what they saw, or perhaps they decided not to make a purchase completely. But either way, this is survivorship bias at play. Yeah, and as a result, those studies might give too rosy of a picture. Okay, another example from a completely different world, the world of credit risk modeling. So credit card companies would have predictive models to predict who will pay back the loan and who will default. Yeah, totally makes sense. Of course, that's very important for them. Okay, what happens next is then they extend the loan or give the credit card to customers who are forecasted to return the loan, and don't extend the loan to other customers, yeah, who are forecasted to be less likely to return the loan. Okay, and then after some time, they can analyze the data as it comes back. So customers who have been extended the loan either pay it back or they don't. Probably most of them do. So company can sense check accuracy of its models. Yeah, and they can see, oh, yeah, seems like our model is doing pretty well. Those customers that we predicted to return the loan actually are returning it at, let's say, 99%. Cool. Are we satisfied? No, actually, we are not, because we don't know, we don't have any feedback system on customers who you did not decide to extend the loan. Perhaps you are biased. Perhaps you are discriminating against, you know, racial minorities or some other groups, but you will never find out about that. Yeah, and perhaps you are unduly discriminating against them. Perhaps they would be paying the loans back. So what I heard recently is that actually a lot of companies who do this type of business, they would randomly extend loan to small percent of people who they predicted not to pay it back. And that's in order to sense check accuracy of their models also on that set of data. Let me quickly pause here. Does it make sense? Feel free to use chat or, you know, shout something out.
So just from what you said there, was there anything with those samples, like depending on the sample size of those where they had declined that they then offered credit to, did they see that their models were wrong, were more accurate? Do we know any of that to see what that was, or from what you had seen?
I'm not sure what sample sizes there would be. Yeah, I'm not sure what the proportions of accepting versus denying would be there. Yeah, that could be a problem as well. Yeah, when you're creating a predictive model and you have very unbalanced classes, like, you know, you're trying to predict cancer. Oh, it's a beast of its own. It's hard to get data and it's very hard to get feedback. You need expert opinions there to help you validate your models. Yeah, here is a situation. I would not think that amount of data is a problem, but it's a problem that you would not get feedback about potential customers who you denied that loan. Yeah, let's think about another example. Hiring. Yeah, company decides decision to hire or not to hire, and obviously they will have feedback on their decision if judging among people who they hired. But they will never know those people who they declined, would they be potentially good employees or not? Yeah, perhaps their criteria are being too strict. Perhaps they have wrong criteria completely, but they would never find that out because they never decided to hire those people at all. You know, I heard this in real world. One company I was interviewing with said that they rarely make recruiting mistakes. Yeah, how do you know? You can only judge that based on people you hire. You can never know about people who you declined an offer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on. So this was still a simple example. Now we will have something a bit more advanced. Bear with me. So sometimes you might see a trend in data, but it will only exist in the sample of data that you are studying, and it will not exist in general population. Okay, so that was very theoretical. Let's look at an example. We are researchers very interested to study correlation between athletic ability and academic ability among population. And let's imagine that actually in general, there is no correlation. Yeah, like if you look at all these points, well, there is zero correlation here. It's just a random cloud of points. Okay, but we are maybe very junior researchers. We don't know best practices yet. How are we going to conduct our study? Oh, let's imagine we are graduate students, yeah, of very prestigious university. So we will do this study by walking around the campus and surveying everyone we meet there. So we are on the campus of this prestigious university, we meet people and we measure their athletic ability and academic ability in whatever way. It's hard to measure, but that's another story. Okay, so we got all the data. We went into our rooms and we did the analysis, and we found strong negative correlation. However, in reality, this trend doesn't exist. So what happened here? Yeah, this is super counterintuitive. Like how this could be going on? So the university is prestigious, and it has two criteria when selecting students. One is academic ability, other is athletic ability. So if someone is maybe not very academically strong and they are a student of that university, you can probably make pretty confident conclusion that they are an outstanding athlete, and other way around. Yeah. So if they're clearly lacking on one of these criteria, they're probably outstanding on the other one. So that's how this negative correlation is created. But you should never be making a conclusion that this relationship exists in real world. In real world, it does not. And this is statistical paradox is called collider bias. Very counterintuitive. All right. Now we talked about data collection. Yeah, by the nature, during the process of data collection, there might be a bias that will ruin our conclusions. Now, something that we probably have more control over is data analysis itself. Data mining. I will give you a second to read this chart, and then can someone brave tell me what's the problem there? Like why data mining has such poor reputation?
So while everyone's checking that, there was a question in the chat from Alex. Is random sampling of non-survivors considered a broad solution that will work well for most survivorship bias problems, or just specifically for the examples you gave? So kind of going back just to close that out.
Yeah. I'm not sure that you will be able to do random sampling of non-survivors in many different areas. However, certainly, yeah, so being aware of them and trying to include them will certainly help you. Other way to go around it would be, yeah, as example of that company who is doing their marketing study, customer voice, and trying to understand how satisfied their customers are. You must be aware that what you are studying is current customers. Yeah, you are not understanding the market in general. You should not be making conclusions about the market in general, only current customers. So perhaps for some of the questions that you're asking, that will be enough. Yeah. However, you should remember that. Or you can hire a consulting company who will do a study for you, yeah, that will not be sponsored by either of the companies. So this way, customers don't know who is the sponsor of the study.
This is Alex. That makes sense. Thanks for addressing that.
Sure. Yeah, it's not an easy question to answer. Okay, so anyone brave want to comment why data mining might be a problem? Yeah, and by data mining here, we mean what's here on the picture is that when you torture the data, yeah, when you ask data a lot of different questions. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, bad data in, bad data out. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So that's true. Speaking specifically about data mining, yeah, let's imagine that our data set is solid. However, if we don't have a hypothesis, we might be testing indefinite number of things. Yeah, we might be analyzing all possible, like looking at the data with all possible directions, making all possible cuts and looking if something pops as significant correlation or significant difference between two groups. Yeah, you might have 100 independent variables, yeah, you will be examining, okay, what does my customer satisfaction depend on? So if you do test 100 times, something will look at significant.
Ooh, Eleonora, this is Steven. I posted in the chat, but based off of that, it sounds like that this is another example of survivorship bias, where essentially what you're doing is you know what you're looking for in advance, and then for intentionally looking at your quote unquote mined data to validate your own opinion, thereby not an actual data-driven analysis.
Yeah. There is even better word for that. Sometimes it's called answer hacking or p-hacking. Yeah, you're looking for something significant, and then you will only report those significant results. You might forget to mention that you did 100 tests to find one significant finding. Yeah. So, okay, seems like we are clear why this is not a very good idea. Cool. Okay, and this was on simpler side. So now somewhat more advanced example. So sometimes we see a trend in data that might reverse its direction. So here we have two variables: recovery speed and drug dosage. And well, all common sense suggests that there should be positive correlation. However, the relationship is counterintuitive. Yeah, what's going on? Is this drug actually hurting people? Shall we discontinue the drug? Well, not so fast. Let's look by age group. And when we start looking by age group, then we actually see positive correlations. So this is called Simpson paradox. And it's been blowing minds of a lot of statisticians. If you feel confused, you are not alone there. But key takeaway would be that if you see some counterintuitive trend that you think should not exist, try looking by group. Yeah, try breaking the data down by group and see whether that relationship still holds or it disappears. Sometimes it will disappear, sometimes it might change its direction like it did here. Let's take a look at the business example. So we are working for a young company who are trying to grow fast, and in particular, they would like to grow average order value. And they made a large investment to achieve this goal. They invested 100,000 euros to do that. Okay, so it seems like the investment was useful. If you look at average order value among new customers, it seems like it has increased. If you look at existing customers, also, it seems to have increased. Yeah, okay, but let's look at total. And here, something very counterintuitive happened. Yeah, the total actually has decreased. So how can it be that when we look by group, things have gotten better, but then when we looked in general, then things have become worse? Well, it's a matter of weighting. Yeah, what are the weights of these two groups, or what's the composition? Before marketing campaign, we had much smaller percent of new customers compared to existing customers. And during this marketing campaign, we have mostly attracted new customers. Yeah, actually, number of existing customers even has decreased. So now the share of new customers is much larger, and they have lower average order value. As a result, our total has gone down. Yeah. So conclusion here, look by group. Yeah, always examine data by group if you are seeing some counterintuitive results in general, and hopefully that will clarify. Okay. I will take another little pause here and let me know if there are any reactions. has anyone seen similar patterns in their own work? Lawrence, is there anything in chat that we should address? I'm not seeing chat window right now for some reason.
No, there wasn't anything in chat. Don't know if anyone was typing or anything like that.
Okay, sure. Well, I will take it as a sign of approval, or perhaps someone has gotten confused, but we will certainly be able to discuss more and answer more questions at the end. Okay, so now let's talk about interpretation of results. Yeah, and this is going to be especially relevant perhaps for the world of data visualization. Yeah, it's one thing to generate analysis, but then oftentimes you need to draw conclusions from what you are seeing or help your stakeholders draw those conclusions. Okay, so this one is very easy. I'm sure you all know this example, yeah? Correlation is not causation, no matter what someone might tell us otherwise, yeah? And there is no causation between number of movies that Nicolas Cage has been filmed in and swimming pool drownings. The internet is full of examples like that. So correlation is not causation, cool. Actually, one interesting note here is here they are seeing data over time, right? So oftentimes you would see several variables correlated because they all are trending over time, like either they are increasing over time or they are decreasing over time. But it does not mean that there is causal relationship there. Okay, now going back to examples from war. So we are back to World War II, and now it's time for UK special forces to be puzzled. So Germans developed a new technology during World War II. It developed flying bombs. Think about self-guided missiles that were developed a bit later. So that was a prototype for that technology. So they were able to send those flying bombs from the shores of Netherlands and France towards London. And their goal was to hit London. And a lot of those bombs did reach London. And a lot of those were concentrated in downtown. Yeah, they hit downtown. And special forces started looking at the patterns. And there were patterns, yeah, when they plotted where bombs hit on the map, there were clear gaps among those dots and the clear clusters. So the question that they started to ask is that, hey, are Germans' technologies really that developed? Are they able to guide their bombs with precisions? And if that were the case, then how do we interpret areas that were hit versus those that were not hit? Perhaps they have intelligence on location of our strategic objects, or perhaps areas that were spared by the bombings are locations where German spies live. Yeah, a lot of hypotheses, a lot of pattern seeking. So they gave this task to a statistician, and the statistician told them that, well, actually, there is no evidence for any pattern in this data. This amount of concentration can be expected by random. Yeah, actually, it would be much more unlikely if the bombings were spread out very evenly across the downtown. That would be more of evidence for guided precision bombings than random bombings. So this is interesting example from history. It's interesting in a way that it shows how our brains work. Yeah, it's less about history than really human psychology and how we interpret randomness. It's extremely counterintuitive that this pattern is random. We want to find patterns, and we also want to interpret those patterns and find causes for them. That's just how our brains work. We have very poor understanding of randomness. So let's take a look at another example to understand this a bit better. So let's imagine an experiment. 2 students were asked to flip a random coin. And actually, one of them cheated. We know that by fact, but we don't know who of the students cheated. Can you make a guess and tell me, is it student 1 or student 2? And feel free to use annotations here on the slide or chat, whatever is more convenient. Okay, I see some brave souls making their vote. Need more opinions there. So people are saying 2. So it's student 2 cheated, yeah? No long strings of the same. Yep, exactly. So it seems like this exercise was pretty easy for many of you. And you are a savvy audience, and also you probably would expect me to only give you this example if it was counterintuitive. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. So we are expecting it to be a tricky question. So a lot of people who are not so savvy would say that it's probably student 2, that's the pattern that looks more random. A student 1, their pattern does not look random. Yeah, it's long strings of T or H. Yeah, long strings of heads and tails in a row. That must be very unlikely. Yeah, if you look here, that's very long string, for example. So in reality, it is student 1 who did work properly and student 2 who cheated. However, somehow this is very counterintuitive for a lot of people. And the reason is that we underestimate likelihood of rare events. Yeah, we think that events like these coincidences, long strings of the same, are highly unlikely. And I want to give you a funny example from real world here. If you know someone who has 3-4 children of the same gender, you probably know that neighbors, relatives always comment on that, and they say, oh, there is a reason why you have 4 boys or 3 girls. Yeah, it's because you are whatever the reason. Yeah, whether it's positive or negative, they will always suggest some explanations there. And moreover, they will also predict what gender of next child is going to be. Yeah, and if you think anything about statistics, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, gender of next child should not depend on the gender of previous child. Same with this coin flipping experiment. It's random. However, somehow this is often counterintuitive. Okay, so enough of funny examples. Yeah, we are serious business people here. Let's talk business. So let me show an example from my consulting work. Probably some of you are familiar with NPS, Net Promoter Score. So that's a measure of customer advocacy or customer loyalty, if you wish. We ask a question on scale from 0 to 10, and the question sounds like, how likely are you to recommend this company to a friend or relative or friend or colleague? And if they give scores 9 or 10, we call them promoter. 7 or 8, we call them passive, and anything lower is a detractor. And there is a certain amount of research put into that. So these are like this for a reason. Yeah. And by the way, it's Bain company I've worked for who invented this system. Okay. So we do a survey, we collect the data, and then of course we want to understand how our client, who we are working for, compare to their competitors in terms of customer advocacy. Okay, so we made this chart, we calculated percent of promoters, passive detractors, and then finally we calculate the final score. That's difference between number of promoters and number of detractors. Here it is below, yeah. Okay, so some analysts who are very eager to suggest our client, to show clients good results, might say that, oh, our client is leading among competitors in terms of customer loyalty. I will pause here for a second. Do you see any problem with this? This is easy question. It's not a tricky one. Yep. Sample is very small. Yeah. So if you look at the row just above, our N is pretty small. Yeah. So analysts are often biased for results. Yeah, we often want to draw conclusions and tell our clients what's going on. And well, this is good attitude, but we really have to be careful there, because type of mistake to make a mistake like that is extremely easy. So how can we be sure that we are making good conclusions here? How about calculating confidence intervals? Here I have the numbers, and you might see right away that those are extremely wide. Yeah, it's like 40% point or 50% point. So actually, we should not be making any conclusions at all based on this data. The only conclusion that we could be making is that we did not find any statistically significant trend. Yeah, we don't have enough evidence to say that one competitor is doing better than another one. As analysts, this is very hard recommendation to give. Yeah, because we are paid for giving definitive conclusions. However, to be truthful, to really be honest with our clients, we have to look at the randomness around. Yeah, we have to consider confidence intervals, and we have to honestly say when some differences are so small that we cannot be sure about them. Yeah, you don't always need to perform statistical analysis and calculate confidence intervals or do hypothesis test, but sometimes it's enough to look at small differences and say that, oh, actually this differences is very small, and with our N, perhaps we should not overinterpret them. Yeah, let's be careful there. Let me pause here again. I wonder if you guys have seen something like this from your real world, like any fun example of, you know, small difference being overinterpreted.
I know from my perspective, so I handle service desk and technical data. So a lot of the time when one day it's like, there's one day of noise or one day of low volume, they interpret that as something broke, something happened, or if there's high volume, it's something that needs to be taken care of and is consistent. And so they always like look at just that day instead of looking at more and more to see, okay, this isn't a trend, this is noise, or this is just a low point. Like it's not the actual trend and understanding that's actually in the environment, but it's so reactive. It's like one day of change is either way, it kind of pulls from it.
Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Eleanor, I'll give you guys another good example that I've experienced in the past is historically in different departments or organizations, there's some sort of situation where somebody talks about, oh my gosh, did you hear that we have a bad culture? Holy cow, we got to look at this. We have a bad culture. There's these rumors or myths going on that we have some sort of bad culture, or there's some sort of like negative aura that people aren't happy here. So then what you do is you do your engagement tests, you do your well-being tests, and then you start asking around, talking to folks. And then what you do is you realize that one person was really dissatisfied with their most recent employee evaluation in which they were underperformed, and that led to all of these rumors. But I feel like it's another good example here of you have one person in the end who's essentially I'm talking about one individual experience that's getting projected across the entire organization. Anyways, for me, that's really relatable.
Cool. Yeah. And especially if you tell a story around that, yeah. So negative voices can be the loudest voices, yeah. And then it's so easy to tell a story around it, and then everyone will be remembering the story. There are already several different biases that we are touching on, like availability bias. And here we go. Perception is very different from reality.
It's exactly right.
Actually, I recalled another example. So this is from a previous company I've worked on. The company was industrial. It was making pulp, paper, packaging materials, and safety was a key concern. Very important to focus on safety because there might be accidents happening once in a while. And I remember someone from leadership team giving a talk to all employees and saying that our safety records are improving. And the pattern was that, okay, 2 years ago, 3, year ago, 3, and now 2, something like that. So our safety records are improving. Okay, so final example that I want to share with you. It's about complexity bias. We trust complex models. We trust them much more than simple models. This is an example from my real work, still before my current employer. I was doing some time series modeling. And if you've ever done time series modeling, oftentimes best forecast is naive forecast. If you don't have enough data, or if the data is sporadic, if it is volatile, yet there is high volatility, sometimes you just cannot find pattern or trend in the data, and it's best to forecast straight line, to do naive forecast, than forecast some fancy pattern that doesn't exist in reality. Yeah. Okay. So I did my best job fitting a bunch of models. I presented them to my client. Those were pretty simple models. Yeah, they had maybe just a couple of variables, like a couple of historic terms, and perhaps one leading indicator. So some other variable besides historic data. So the clients told me that, hey, yeah, well, thank you. Can you make this better? Can we improve? Like, this doesn't look very impressive. So I went back to my laptop and I tried to find some other leading indicators and try to improve the model fit. And as a result, I got forecasts that were no longer naive. They were looking more fancy. They had some patterns. And reaction from my client was that, hey, yeah, I see, this is much better. Clearly, you did a very good job. So I went back to my computer and started looking at this. And I realized that, no, this is not better at all. Actually, the previous models were more honest and the forecast is likely much better. Now I'm probably just overfitting. However, there is something about human psychology that makes us very happy when we see complex models. It makes us much more certain than if the models were simple. Yeah, and yeah, predictive modeling is certainly one case when this can show up. But actually, I think really good example is from the financial crisis of 2008. Yeah, if you remember what happened back then is that bankers had a lot of models for risk. Those were extremely sophisticated models, mathematical, precision. They hired PhD to do all that. Leadership thought that, yeah, we are very well diversified, we are fine, rock solid, nothing can happen. However, models are as good as assumptions behind them are. Yeah, all models include some assumptions. And of course, you can also overfit. So it's pretty dangerous to just trust the models and blindly trust them. Even though for some reason you really want to do that. So I showed you a range of behavioral biases and statistical paradoxes. And some of you might have thought that, oh, well, this is all interesting, it all makes sense, but why are you presenting this to me? I'm very well versed in statistics. I'm data savvy. I'm a good analyst. I don't need all that. I know everything I need to know. Perhaps it's someone junior, but I will never make any mistake like that. Yeah. Perhaps some of you are thinking like that. And I would like to think like that too. So let me give you some bad news. Does anyone know who this guy is? Someone must know. He is very famous. Central banker, not quite. Anyone else wants to give a try? Okay, I can give you a hint. He won Nobel Prize. Kahneman, yes. So one person, Elizabeth got it correctly. Daniel Kahneman. And if you know anything about Kahneman, he's the founder of the field of behavioral economics. So he is the most famous person, the most famous researcher who studied all the behavioral biases. He studied how humans make decisions, and particularly how they make those decisions wrong, what the mistakes that they're making. He spent decades and decades doing this research. And if anyone knows how to make wrong conclusions, he does. So let's see what he says himself about making correct conclusions. I don't think my thinking is much better than 45 years ago when I started doing behavioral economics research. Teaching psychology is mostly a waste of time. How do you like that? So what Daniel Kahneman is saying to us is that, well, these biases might seem very simple when you look at examples and when you see them in others, but actually it's really hard to fight them in yourself. We are still, even if we taught psychology, we are still very prone to making very same mistakes. Any comments or questions?
Just one comment on that human beings are always more complex and unpredictable than we think they are, is my take on that.
Yep, exactly. And I would say that we need to be humble, yeah. Confidence in yourself, it's a little dangerous thing, yeah. Even if you have years of experience analyzing data or, you know, doing business management, oftentimes this is not guarantee that our conclusions are going to be good, yeah. We're still prone to making wrong conclusions. Lawrence, shall we open it now for like general discussion, networking?
And so yeah, 100% open for that. So if anyone has any other questions, you know, feel free to post in the chat. Thank you, Eleonora. That was fantastic going through that, and getting more up to date or refresh on the different types of biases and thinking about, you know, where across the process it was. So I really appreciate you taking the time and doing that, and walking us through, you know, all of those and giving all those examples. So really appreciate that. And so I think as well, what I'm going to do is, for anyone who is dropping, feel free, but I'm going to stop the recording and open it up for general networking and other questions and answers. So for anyone else or anyone who's watching the recording, thank you for joining. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or to we'll be sending out notes and other items around how to get a hold of Eleonora, view her visits, as well as get a hold of me also. So thank you very much.